Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. I'm Matthias Aufiku, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Evening Review show. Well, before we get into the matters of the night, let's take a look at tomorrow's headlines. Well, first up, in Otjozondjupa region, Governor James Warikwa hands over some wheelchairs, to the constituency councillors. We also have a story on the city of Windhoek, the ongoing legal probe and the fight involving the legal head of the city, Mr. Ben Gairorwe. The management committee has ordered that that process be stopped until it has been considered by the committee, and they will then give recommendations on the way forward. We also have another story, another legal related story. Of course, the AG, Mr. Festus Mbandeka, has issued a legal opinion on the ongoing fight between the Independent Patriots for Change and its Swakop Moon councillor, Ms. Siska Howard. You remember that the party had restrained her last year after claims emerged that she seemingly does not live in the vicinity in which she was voted. So those are just some of the stories you can expect in tomorrow's paper. So for now, let's get into the business of the night. Well, we're joined in the studio tonight by Mr. Rene Traut. He's from Turf Namibia. He's a managing member there. Rene, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. It's good to have you on the show.
Yes, thanks for having me.
No, it's very well, very well. Rene, can you just give us a brief summary about Turf Namibia and its work and what it's all about?
Basically, my partner really started this sort of venture a few years ago. He actually specializes in turf, normal turf for your house. But over the past few years, we had a lot of requests, especially private and schools and sport facilities, that they need to upgrade their facilities. That's how I sort of got involved. I'm actually a passionate football player, and I helped my partner a bit in a few of his projects. And he just invited me to come on board. So we actually started the company last year in May, like formally everything registered. And that's how things just started rolling.
Yeah.
So we do specialize in just sport turfs now. That's 5-a-side, 7-a-side, 11-a-side, natural or artificial, and all your other sporting activities that you can think of.
Yeah. Of course, I'm sure that together with your team, you must have seen a niche, hence you decided to take this move. In terms of sports infrastructure, you and your team have toured the country, it seems, especially in the last few weeks. What have you picked up from the ground?
Okay, this is, obviously, we're not talking about our stadiums. Yeah. This is a whole different ball game. That's not really why we started the company, but the Italian company called Le Monta, they actually contacted us just after we started our company last year. So we've been in discussions already just under a year, where they called us and they actually said they specialize in building stadiums or renovating or whatever information you need. They come on board, and I just called this guy and said, listen, we actually have a huge problem in our country. I mean, our national team can't play anymore. They actually have to play their home games in South Africa. We do have a problem, and I think we should talk. And since then, we've been talking. Obviously, he couldn't come here because of Corona and all the restrictions on flights and stuff. So that's why things took quite a while.
Yes.
And I also told him, you can't just come here. Actually, I need to get the right people on board first. This means not government, municipalities, and that was not such an easy task.
Yeah.
But I got it done, and then, yes, like you said, 2 weeks ago, he was here for a week. We went on a roadshow. We did Windhoek, Swakop, Walfish, and Otjiwarongo. We had a look at all the major stadiums, and yes, we actually find ourselves in a position now where they came here for free. We're doing assessments, feasibility studies for free. We're giving our government and the municipalities all the information they need to make a choice of how we're going to go forward with this. I also believe, we don't have the people in the country to do this kind of job. Yeah. And these guys, they do those stadiums for Real Madrid, for AC Milan, so that it's these are big people, so that's how we should treat them as well. That's why I waited a bit to get them on board before the right people here in Namibia actually can help us.
Yeah.
And I think we're on the right track. Once we have our reports done, everything will be in the hands of our leaders, and they must make a choice then.
Yeah. So, but what would you say, Rene, during this roadshow that you spoke of? What are some of the pertinent issues that you picked up, and you and the team, that needs to be
I
addressed?
mean, it's yeah, well, it's very basic. I mean, that's why FIFA suspended all our international games. Our stadiums are not up to standard of what they should be to host big games or big tournaments. I mean, not even Sam Nujoma can have our local games because it's just not safe anymore. So basically, dilapidated stadiums, no maintenance done, nobody's taking care of the stadiums. Everything is just falling apart, and it just seems like nobody's taking responsibility of these stadiums. It's like me buying a Mercedes and giving it to someone who doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's actually quite sad to see. Some of the stadiums you can still play in. I mean, you just need the grasses and you just need some attention. You can actually play in, but the seatings for the people and the lighting, especially the lighting, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't play at night at all. Most of these stadiums.
Yeah.
So, and me being a football player myself, I know what to look at and to look for. Also being overseas, seeing how the people do it there, we're very, very far behind. So something needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, you've highlighted the issue of a lack of maintenance. How do we address that? Should you and your team get the required support from the decision makers?
So we had a discussion about this, very important. So once we do start renovating or building stadiums, there needs to be a plan in place of who's going to take care of the stadium afterwards. Overseas, they have stadium management companies. Companies who specifically go in and look after your facilities. And I don't believe that we have something like that in Namibia,
Yeah.
which would be an opportunity for someone out there to start something like this. If you just think with us, if we start with these projects, well, obviously, while we are building, we need to identify people who can take care of the stadiums. But then I must also say they need the support of the government and municipalities. It doesn't help you employ someone and they're just, not getting paid for their services, or there's just no support. So everything must come from above. Otherwise, this whole thing won't work. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Rene, we'll go for a short break quickly because I want us to talk about the cost element of implementing a project of this nature. So just gather your thoughts around the topic, and we'll be back soon after this ad break.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay.
Well, let me welcome our viewers back from the short ad break. Rene, welcome. We're back. The cost element of a project of this nature. Of course, we know how the economic climate is, just not in Namibia, but the world over. How do you implement to run this project?
It's a very good question. Obviously, we know that Namibia has already a lot of debt. And to actually run a project like this requires more debt. So people also have to decide what they actually want to do. But the good thing about Le Monta Sport from Italy, they actually operate like a bank. So they actually fund these projects. Like they actually investors, which is what we need in the country. So basically, what happens? We come to an agreement of what needs to be done on the stadium. We come to agreement on the final amount. Then Namibia pays 15% of that amount to Le Monta, which is all governed by the World Bank and our finance minister and the minister from Italy. Everything is on paper and everything is runs the way it should be. Namibia pays 15%, and then Le Monta comes in, and then we start construction. Until the project is completely finished, Namibia pays 10, 15 years. They have a payback period, which obviously gives us chance to actually construct something like this, get football matches going, create some sort of income that the stadium can actually pay itself off. Hence where our sport management companies come in and all these people. It's definitely possible, because I don't believe that one stadium would cost you about 300-400 million, just one to renovate.
Yeah.
I don't believe Namibia has that kind of money at all. So the only way we're going to fix this is by these funding opportunities, and this is what Le Monta Sport is giving us. That's the only way it's going to work, in my opinion. So, if our people can't get it right, then I don't know how else we're going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the issue of a sports management company. What type of sports activities would you say can be embarked upon to generate this needed revenue?
We have to start thinking out of the box. When we were sitting in the car, like the guy from Le Monta was actually saying, why don't you get one of your biggest NPL clubs in one of these stadiums and give it to them that they can run it? I'm thinking now African Stars or Pirates, whatever those teams were. Put them in the stadium. Give them, listen, guys, here's a stadium. Run it for us. Get the youth in there. Get events in there. Do something. It's just thinking out of the box. I don't say we have to do it like that.
Yeah.
But those are opportunities that you can give to some people who need facilities, that they can run it for whoever is the owner of the stadium. You can also obviously get private companies in to do it. It's another option. Whichever way, I think there are opportunities out there. We must just sit together and use our brains and think about it.
Yeah.
We can't put another stadium there like Sam Nujoma, in 20 years it's done because nobody looks after it.
Yeah.
That's just one of these things, and I think if we don't have a plan in place, I don't even think we should even start renovating any kind of stadium, because it'll just be demolished again in 20 years' time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we need to think about.
Another issue is the issue of the artificial turfs. I know, and I've seen comments also on social media and so on. When compared to the climate that we have on the continent, how is that technology incorporated to ensure that there are no adverse effects, especially for the players who would then use that facility?
You see, there's again where the management of the turf comes in. You have to use it in spaces. You can't overuse it. The turf, it is artificial. It only has a lifespan of about, say, 10 years. So there needs to be a maintenance plan in place to replace the turf after so many years. It gets fitted with rubber granules, and there are shock pads in. The technology is definitely available for players to do it. They play with these kind of turfs overseas only. They can't have artificial grass in such adverse weather conditions that they have overseas.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible. The only problem the sun is a problem, and then maybe at the coast when we have these east winds. But there are ways and means around it.
Yeah. Yeah, because the reason I'm asking is because I'm sure even with the Sam Nujoma, there's been issues with these NPL matches, especially when it comes to midday matches.
Yes, it gets very hot. But I must that turf is 20 years old. You mustn't forget. And those, number one, it's completely done. And it needs new grass. But also those rubber granules that were used back in the day, that's just normal tires that were grinded down to small particles. That technology has completely changed. It's not really the grass that gets so hot, it's actually the rubber that gets so hot.
Yeah.
And that's also now completely different. Yeah, so technology has definitely changed over 20 years. I can
Yeah.
assure you that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in terms of the management plans that you've mentioned, would your company be involved in that process?
I'm not too sure. Probably we can probably facilitate and help, but that's not our core focus to do maintenance afterwards. I mean, we actually install. Um, we do obviously provide an after sales service.
Yeah.
A stadium management company, no, that's not what we are. But we
Yeah.
can obviously facilitate in keeping the grass in good order. I'm not going to go there and see how the locker rooms or the toilets are and all these things. That's not
Yeah.
our core function. But we can definitely help with keeping the grass or the turf in order.
Yeah.
That we can do that. So we can get involved to a certain extent, but not full force.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason I'm asking that is because you lamented earlier on about the lack of maintenance at the facilities that you visited. So clearly, then it
Yes.
means there's a problem in the system already. So surely you and your team ought to also come with solutions on
Yes.
how to address this.
The small things that they say, like the guy needs to replace a bulb, but now he needs to go through the whole municipality system of ordering a bulb, and there are like 20 people who need to sign it off. Those are the small problems these people have, and later obviously they say, you know what, I'm not going to replace this bulb because the whole admin process just takes too long,
Yeah.
and that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It needs to come from above, and these processes need to be simplified. If the guy needs to replace a bulb or he needs to get a new lock or something, then he must have the power to do it. You understand?
Yeah.
This is where a company must come in and have the authority and maybe get a budget from somewhere that they can work with. They are at the Independence Stadium. You must go there. There's machines lying there. They've been lying there for how many years? I'm sure they can be fixed, but they're just lying there.
Yeah.
A lot of equipment it must cost millions that is just lying around, and nobody takes responsibility or cares. It's quite shocking to see.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
No, Rene,
Not all negative. Not all negative. We need to be positive about this.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, no, no. Thank you very much for your time today, Rene. We
no
wish you
problem.
and your team the best.
Yeah, we'll keep you guys posted. Our reports are coming out 31st of March. So the government and municipalities will get all our findings,
Yeah.
and from then on, the ball is in their court. We're
Yeah.
here at the disposal. If you use us, great. If you don't, at least we tried.
Yeah. Thank you very much and
Okay.
have a pleasant evening.
Okay. You too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Ciao. Bye.